So good afternoon, grade 8 students natin of Prensa National High School. I just hope that you're okay. Before we officially start our lesson, let me check first our audio and visual sa YouTube channel natin. So mukhang so far okay naman yung ating audio and visual. Uh, just like what we have done for the past few sessions natin ng ating live streaming ng online class, instead of the synchronous online class, we will just have a pre-recorded online classes for our fourth grading period. So, hindi na po natin papatagalin itong intro na ito. Actually, this is just the part 2 of our first session ng ating lesson number 3 sa biotechnology. So, just give me a minute so that I can now start sharing my screen with you. So let us check lamang po kung nag-a-appear na sa ating screen, sa ating platform. Ayan. So currently, nag-a-upload na. So yan. So again, good afternoon grade 8 students natin of Prensa National High School. Again, this is Mr. Marian Marinas and I will be your teacher facilitator for this lesson 3, part 2, which we will tackling human embryology. So sa human embryology, so titingnan natin mostly dito is yung prenatal development ng isang human individual. So in this case, mahalaga rin katulad ng discussion natin last time sa human reproductive system, it's also important to take note of some of the events here sa human embryology kasi it's actually connected to lesson number 4, which is all about medical biotechnology. So sa oras na ito, sa session na ito, we are going to discuss fertilization and cleavage, implantation, embryogenesis, and organogenesis. We will be discussing important events and important happenings in each major stages sa human prenatal development. So sa human embryology, we will start discussing here with fertilization. So sa fertilization, it is defined strictly as the fusion of the haploid nuclei of the sperm and the secondary oocyte. Okay, so in this case, the haploid nuclei of the sperm and the secondary oocyte, yun po yung nagaganap sa ating fertilization. Tandaan po natin na sa oogenesis sa babae, nakatigil po yung ating egg cells sa meiosis 1. Magpapatuloy lamang po yung completion ng kanyang meiosis once na nagkaroon na po ng fusion or na-penetrate na po siya ng sperm cell. So very strict po dito. Alam naman natin na haploid po yung ating sperm cell. Ibig sabihin kalahati lamang po ang kanya daladalang chromosome. So N plus N from the female, you're going to get 2N, the diploid number. Ibig sabihin the zygote which will be formed after fertilization is a diploid cell. Although the term is often used loosely to mean the entry of the sperm head into the egg. So it's very important to take note na ito it's the fusion of the haploid nuclei of the sperm and the secondary oocyte, not just merely the penetration of the head of the sperm into the egg cell. So fertilization results in the formation of the zygote. So zygote is actually a diploid cell that results after the fertilization of the egg cell. So the zygote begins a series of cell division called cleavage. Actually, itong cleavage na to, it's actually mitosis. So based from our discussion last time sa Science 8, yung mitosis, it's a somatic cell division. In about 24 hours after fertilization and after an additional 4 days, it produces a blastocyst. So ibig sabihin, single cell lamang po ang ating zygote, then there will be a series of cell division. So 2-cell stage, magde-divide yan maging 4-cell stage, 8-cell stage, 16-cell, until such time na magiging ball of cell na ito na tinatawag nating morula. So morula is a ball of cell that is actually the product or the resulting structure after the cleavage ng ating zygote. And after additional 4 days, it will produce a blastocyst. A blastocyst is actually a sphere of cells surrounding a central cavity. So ibig sabihin a blastocyst, so para siyang bola ng basketball, yung thin lining niya is actually made up of cells and there is a central cavity. Okay? So parang meron siyang hollow area sa loob ng kanyang structure. So that one is called the blastocyst. The blastocyst will attach to the endometrium, and just like what we have discussed last time, pag sinabi nating endometrium, it's the innermost lining, o ito actually it's the outermost lining ng uterus. So ito yung nasa labas ng ating uterus, sa uterine wall rather. Okay? So the endometrium about 6 days after ovulation. So na-discuss natin last time sa previous session na yung ovulation is the release of the egg cell from the follicle inside the ovary. And during ovulation, magta-travel yung ating egg cell, and once na nakapag-meet ito sa ng sperm cell sa fallopian tube, there will be fertilization. It will continue to move until such time that it will undergo the implantation, na kung saan ito ibabaon or maghuhukay ito sa wall ng ating endometrium o sa innermost lining ng ating uterus. So as you can see here on the diagram, we will not discuss all of the things presented here, but as you can see here, the embryo, or rather the embryo here starts embedding or implanting itself to the wall of the uterine lining. After cleavage, groups of cells undergo gastrulation. And when we see gastrulation, as you can see here, in this stage, the cells take up new locations. So nagkakaroon ng matinding migration or paggalaw ng mga cells dito sa blastocyst natin. And this allows the formation of all organs and tissues. So actually itong gastrulation, it's a landmark stage here na kung saan dito magsisimula na rin yung mga formation ng mga unang structure ng ating developing embryo sa loob ng sinapupunan ng isang ina. So as you can see here, this is your blastocyst. We have the trophoblast and this inner cell mass na kung saan very important itong structure na ito sa discussion natin sa cloning, sa stem cell technology and tissue engineering na i-discuss natin sa next session. Then after that one, it will start to form several germ layers or tissue layers like the ectoderm, the endoderm, and the mesoderm. So during this gastrulation, ito yung parang sabihin natin panimula ng pagbubuo ng mga organs ng isang embryo. So meanwhile, the embryoblast undergoes embryogenesis, and during this embryogenesis, the blastomeres o yung mga cells ng ating embryo will rearrange to form the 3 primary germ layers. The 3 primary germ layers is what we call the ectoderm, the endoderm, and the mesoderm. Sa ating diagram nakalista po dito yung iba't ibang structure na kung saan ito yung magiging future ng ating mga germ layers. For example, yung ating endoderm layer, this is the internal structure here, this is the yellowish part here. Endoderm layer will become the digestive system, the liver, the pancreas, and the lungs, specifically the inner layer of the lungs. Yung mesoderm naman, obviously the middle layer here, the red one here, will become the circulatory system, the coating of our lungs, the skeletal, and the muscular system. While the ectoderm layer naman will eventually become the hair, the nail, the skin, and most especially the nervous system kasama yung ating brain. So the ectoderm layer here is the outermost, the blue one here. So napapansin natin that these 3 germ layers will be the future organs and organ system ng isang human individual. So eventually, through further development, this structure will become those structures itself. So another list. So this one is actually a more comprehensive list of the different structures belonging to each type of the 3 belonging to the 3 germ layers natin. So hindi na natin isa-isahin diyan. You can just go back here sa ating YouTube video to classify the different structures ng isang adult human being and relate that one to the 3 germ layers natin. Actually, this one is the more summarized version ng ating fates ng ating 3 germ layer. And this is the more comprehensive list of the different structure arising from each of the germ layers. Now, aside from that one, the 4 embryonic membranes called the amnion, yolk, allantois, and chorion also develop alongside the embryo. So these are the structure that will help in the nourishment of the developing individual or developing embryo na nag-implant na sa uterine lining. So eventually, these 4 embryonic membranes will be mainly for the nourishment and the protection of the developing embryo sa loob ng sinapupunan ng ating ina. So the amnion is a transparent sac filled with amniotic fluid that protects the embryo from trauma, infection, and temperature fluctuation. So yung amnion, siya yung parang balot. Siya yung pinaka-innermost na coating or covering ng ating developing individual. So yung amnion natin is actually filled with fluid. So nagsiswimming yung ating developing individual or yung embryo natin sa amniotic fluid. So para siyang unan, para siyang siya yung parang protector. Nagpoprotekta siya sa ating embryo from trauma, sa infection, and obviously temperature fluctuation. Yung the trophoblast naman o yung outermost part ng ating blastocyst will contribute to the formation of the placenta. The placenta is an accessory organ that contains both the embryonic and maternal blood vessels. So yung placenta natin o yung inuna natin, dyan nagmi-meet yung ating blood vessels ng embryo or ng developing fetus at nung ating ina. The placenta mainly supplies nutrients and removes waste through the diffusion of materials between the maternal and the embryonic circulatory system. So, dito nagaganap yung exchange o yung palitan. Siyempre, kailangan naman, hindi naman pwedeng manatili yung mga dumi sa katawan ng baby. And as well naman, hindi naman pwedeng hindi natin i-deliver yung mga necessary nutrients papunta sa developing embryo. So, mahalaga po itong role ng placenta na ito para sa supply ng nutrients at pagtatanggal din ng dumi mula sa katawan ng developing embryo. So, during this stage, the embryonic stage is marked by the following events. All three germ layers are present. Again, the three germ layers are the endoderm, ectoderm, and the mesoderm. The placenta forms and serves as the primary means of nutrition. So ito yung link ng baby o ng ating embryo sa katawan ng babae kasi syempre very dependent yung embryo na yan sa nutrition mula sa kanyang ina. The organogenesis, again pag naririnig natin ang salitang genesis sa biology, genesis means formation. So the formation of organs or organogenesis occurs as the germ layers differentiate into organs and organ systems. So, very important tong embryonic stage because as you can see here, halos lahat ng ganap nito is nakakonekta na rin sa mga organs and organ systems ng isang adult human individual. So, ibig sabihin, the germ layers, the ectoderm, mesoderm, and endoderm will eventually form the organs and organ system through the process called organogenesis. Some of the ectoderm, di ba nabanggit natin kanina yung ectoderm natin dito kabilang yung magiging hair, nails, skin natin, and most especially the nervous system. Yung ilang cells ng ectoderm na yan that are located near the notochord. The notochord is actually a stiff rod na magiging future spinal cord natin. Okay, so yung mga cells ng ectoderm na malapit sa notochord will produce what we call the neural plate. This neural plate will be formed through the process called neurulation. And this neurulation, during this stage, the cell becomes the brain, spinal cord, and parts of the peripheral nervous system. So as you can see, very critical yung stage na ito kasi ito yung magiging future brain, spinal cord, and the several parts ng ating nervous system. So magkakaroon po ng mass migration yung mga cells na yan, and actually, the mass migration na yan will actually will eventually form what we call the nerve cell. At about 28 days after fertilization, arm and leg limb buds begin to appear. It quickly elongates, and by about 35 days, hand and foot plates form at the end of each bud or limb buds. Gene regulation play a big role in triggering apoptosis or programmed cell death to free the fingers and toes from its web structure. So in this case, nagsisimula yung ating mga limbs para sa mga usbong sa gilid ng katawan ng embryo. 28 days pa lang yan. So at around 1 month, meron na siyang mga limb buds o mga baby limbs, kumbaga. Then after that one, magkakaroon tayo ng tinatawag na limb plates, hand and foot plates rather. Itong hand and foot plates na to, yung mga fingers niya hindi free. Para siyang sa sirena na, sa mga ducks na merong mga skin folds sa pagitan ng mga daliri. Pero through the help of this gene regulation that will trigger apoptosis, mamamatay yung mga cells sa pagitan ng mga daliri na yan, kaya magiging fingers and toes na yan. It will free the embryo's fingers and toes from its web structure. Aside from that one, the phase develops from the fusion of 5 tissue masses called processes. So yung processes natin, 5 po yan. So we have one frontonasal process. So this one, ito po yung nagpo-form sa noo natin and upper portion ng ating face. The maxillary process that will form some parts of our nose and the cheeks natin, yung pisngi natin. And the two mandibular process wherein it will form yung baba and some parts of the lower jaw ng isang individual. So mag-fuse siya mga yan. So sa totoo lang mukhang hindi pa tao yan during 28 days, 33 days, and 48 days after fertilization. But eventually, through this fusion of these facial processes, mag-fuse yan at mabubuo na yung at least human, mas mukha na siyang tao sa 14 weeks after fertilization. 14 weeks is around almost 4 months na rin siya kumbaga. Okay? Yung heart naman natin, the heart develops into a midline heart from the fusion of 2 blood vessels about 21 days after fertilization. Kasi sa totoo lang, after within a month, the ultrasound will actually detect the first heartbeat na rin ng developing embryo. Kasi nga, after 21 days after fertilization, there will be now the formation or the development of the embryonic heart. So napansin natin dito, mabubuo yung heart natin through this fusion nitong dalawang blood vessels na ito, magkakaroon po ng twisting, forming our adult heart. At about this time, the heart also starts to beat. So titibok na po yung puso ng embryo during around the first month ng ating pregnancy. At the same time as neurulation, again, pag sinabi nating neurulation, the nervous system formation, some parts of the embryo folds to form a tube. Actually, ito yung ating endoderm. Magpo-fold yan to form the gastrointestinal tract na na-discuss sa grade 8 science sa digestive system. Pag sinabi nating gastrointestinal tract, it is mostly made up of the organs of the digestive system. At about 28 days after fertilization, or at least a month after fertilization, series of outpocketings in the GI tract forms and develops into various organs such as the liver, the pancreas, yung mga pituitary gland, yung mga organs like the lungs, the thyroid glands, the pharynx, the tonsils. So yan ay manggagaling or magmumula dito sa gastrointestinal tract na nabuo mula sa endoderm ng isang embryo. So napakadaming ganap sa almost first month pa lang ng development ng isang individual, ang daming nagaganap, ang daming na-form ng mga structure sa ating embryo. And during the early days of the development, the kidneys develop alongside the internal reproductive organs such as testes and ovaries. Please take note na ang ating mga reproductive organs, specifically the gonads, ay nabubuo sa loob ng katawan ng embryo or ng ating fetus. Dito na rin magbubula yung mga ducts like the vas deferens and the oviduct. Ngunit at 56 to 60 days after fertilization, the external genitalia begins to differentiate in male and female. So magde-descend pa, lalabas sa abdominal cavity yung gonads na yan at eventually magiging testes. At kapag ito'y nanatili sa loob, it will remain as an ovary which will actually be manifested as a female. Okay? So the final stage of the prenatal development is the fetus, which starts from the 9th week until birth. So pag na-reach na natin ang 9th week, hindi na po embryo ang tawag sa kanya. So ang tawag na sa kanya will be called fetus. Organs that are formed during the embryonic stage undergoes growth and differentiation. Pero take note during the embryo stage pa lang po, halos present na po lahat yung mga organs and organ system ng isang individual. Ang susunod na mangyayari na lang po dyan will be undergoing the growth, mass growth, and differentiation ng mga organ system na yan. Each organ will acquire functional capability to support life outside the mother. So patuloy na lalaki lamang po yung fetus na yan, gaining the very important differentiation, growth, and development of the different organs and organ system. Para once na lumabas ito sa sinapupunan ng isang ina, is ready na itong maging at least the independent from the mother. So during the second trimester, week 13 to week 24, majority of the organs have completed most of their development. good anatomical details are now visible with sonography o yung ultrasound natin. The fetus looks distinctly human by the end of this trimester. And when we say second trimester, this will be the fourth, the fifth, the sixth month ng pregnancy ng isang babae. So at least dito, mas mukha ng tao yung baby o yung fetus natin, and it actually acquires a more human look kumpara sa nauna niyang itsura na medyo nagpo-fuse pa lang yung mga structures niya during the embryonic stage. The third trimesters, week 25 to birth or 7, 8, and 9th month is marked by rapid growth of the fetus. Organs achieve sufficient differentiation to support life outside the mother. So talagang tuloy-tuloy po yung development and differentiation ng mga organs na ito para matulungan yung baby once na lumabas na ito sa sinapupunan ng ina. Organs such as the brain, the liver, and kidneys needs further differentiation after birth to become fully functional. So, actually, alam naman natin na yan, yung development, yung growth and development na ituloy-tuloy naman yan all throughout the lifetime ng isang tao. Pero itong age ng during the prenatal development, very rapid, very fast yung growth, differentiation, and development ng different organs and organ system ng isang embryo or ng fetus natin. So, once na na-reach na ng ating fetus, yung sabihin na natin yung kanyang stay sa loob ng sinapupunan ng isang ina, there will now be a series of strong rhythmic uterine contraction that will mark the beginning of the labor. So this labor, these contractions, push the fetus and placenta out of the body. So para magkakaroon ng mga movement yung ating mga muscular layers sa ating uterus, and that one is what we call labor. And hormonal activity from estradiol and oxytocin, two types of hormones, and local regulators such as prostaglandin will trigger a positive feedback. So patuloy itong magte-trigger ng paghihilab at pagko-contract ng mga or mag-movement ng mga uterine lining na to hanggang sa makalabas na yung ating baby, as well kasama na rin po yung inunan niya o yung placenta na yan. So labor is described in 3 stages: the dilation of the cervix o yung sipit-sipitan, expulsion of the delivery or the delivery of the baby, so paglabas ng baby, and the expulsion of the placenta. Okay, so yan yung mga stages ng labor natin. So kailangan po ang unang normally dapat unang lalabas diyan yung ulo kasi may tendency na maipit yan or magkaroon ng problema kapag nahuli yung ulo ng baby. So actually during the last stages naman ng prenatal development, nagkakaroon po ng movement si baby sa loob ng sinapupunan ng ina at pwesto na yung ulo niya malapit sa may cervix o malapit sa labasan niya. So nagkakaroon ng suwe o yung hindi siya naka-crown position kapag baliktad, nauuna yung paa. And normally that cases will require additional surgery or operation. So let's review. I think that's the last part of our discussion for this session. So let's review. Blank is the fusion of the haploid nuclei of the sperm and secondary oocyte, forming a blank. Is it fertilization and it will form oocyte? Is it fertilization and it will form zygote? Or is it cleavage that will form a zygote? So your timer starts now. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the answer for this one is fertilization is the fusion of the haploid nuclei of the sperm cell and the secondary oocyte forming a zygote. Oh, sorry. Parang nagkamali tayo ng pindot dito. But anyway, so after cleavage, the morula or the ball of cell will become a hollow sphere of cells called the blastula. So ayusin lang natin ng konti ito. Nagkaroon po ng konting pagkakaproblema lang po. So the human embryoblast undergoes embryogenesis in which the blastomeres rearrange to form how many primary germ layers? Ilang germ layers nga ba ang na-perform mula sa ating embryoblast? Is it just 1 germ layer, 2 germ layer, or 3 germ layer? So 5 seconds starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer is 3 germ layers. The trophoblast contributes to the formation of the blank. an accessory organ that contains both embryonic and maternal blood vessels. So ano nga ba yung tawag sa structure na kung saan nagkakaroon po ng meeting yung ating embryonic and maternal blood vessel necessary for the nourishment of the embryo? Is it called the amnion, the placenta, or the yolk sac? So your 5 seconds starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer for this one is the placenta o yung inuna ng bata. Gene regulation plays a big role in triggering blank or programmed cell death to free the fingers and toes from its web structure. O so ano yung term na tinatawag nating programmed cell death? Is it apoptosis, apocalypse, or appendix? So yan, ano kaya yung term sa programmed cell death na to? So your timer starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The answer is apoptosis. The phase develops from the fusion of how many tissue masses called processes? Ano nga ilang processes nga ba yung nagpo-fuse para mabuo yung mukha ng isang embryo? Is it 5, 6, or 7? So timer starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the answer for this one is 5. Some of the ectoderm cells that are located near the notochord forms the neural plate through the process called, so ano yung tawag sa proseso ng pagbuo ng central nervous system natin? Is it called the gastrulation, the neurulation, or the cleavage? So 5 seconds starts now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If your answer is neurulation, then you are correct. So that ends our discussion on human embryology. Please take note of some of the concept that was presented here because that will be very useful once we discuss lesson 4, which is all about the medical biotechnology. Most specifically yung sa cloning, tissue engineering at sa stem cells natin. So naka-post na rin po sa ating group chat yung ating mga links for the activities and quizzes, and the soft deadline will be next week Friday. Yung sa ating hard deadline naman, again, let me remind you, the hard deadline for accessing the links will be June 13, 2022, Monday. So I will now go back to the platform. So ayan, that ends our discussion this afternoon. So I'm very thankful for those who stayed with me during this part 2 ng lesson 3 natin sa biotechnology. So I just hope that you learned something about the human reproductive system as well as how we develop inside the womb of our mother, which will be very handy once we discuss medical biotechnology for the next session. So I hope to see you next week sa ating lesson number 4, which will be tackling about the medical biotechnology. So again, maraming salamat po and goodbye.